Hey y'all, Sarah Morgan here with Cooking with the First Ladies, and today is National Fruitcake Day, and I'm going to be sharing a traditional fruitcake recipe, which is the one they use at the White House, and also Martha Washington's Great White Cake, which is a frosted version of the dessert. Now, fruitcake does usually call for alcohol in the recipe, which today we are going to be using brandy and Madeira wine. Also, some of them do call for rum, different things like that, but there's always substitutions. The alcohol actually helps to kill the bacteria, which is why some fruitcakes can last for years. In fact, one family has a fruitcake that is 130 years old. So even Rosalind Carter's mother, Miss Allie, who never had alcohol in her home, borrowed just enough whiskey to add to her annual Christmas Lane cake. Now, many of the Christmas traditions that we have in the United States today only really became popular less than 200 years ago, and was mostly because of the need for a feeling of peace and unity after the outbreak of the Civil War. The holidays at the White House were also very different, especially in the 19th century. The very first Christmas tree wasn't displayed at the White House until 1889 by the Harrisons. And the very first Christmas lights weren't until the Clevelands in 1894. Now, Christmas cards, they did not become popular until the 1850s, and ornaments were not widely sold until the 1870s. So trees were usually adorned with handmade paper ornaments, popcorn strands, and other edible delicacies, which were not usually displayed or even decorated until Christmas Eve. Now, a few of the modern First Ladies even decided to go with some more simple decorations for the White House trees. Lady Bird Johnson used popcorn strands in the 1960s, and Betty Ford decorated the tree with paper chains, popcorn strands, and wooden ornaments in the 1970s. Now, decorating the White House Christmas tree became the official duty and responsibility of the First Lady with Pat Nixon. And the tradition of choosing a theme began with Jackie Kennedy, who went with a Nutcracker Suite theme. The very first Christmas as well celebrated at the White House was in the year 1800, by John and Abigail Adams. However, the very first memorable Christmas party was thrown by Andrew Jackson and his niece, Emily Donaldson. She decorated with cedar and holly, but also mistletoe, which were called kissing balls. Emily was hoping to influence a relationship between Martin Van Buren and her good friend Cora, which that ultimately never happened. When Emily Donaldson and the children awoke in the White House on Christmas morning, the children were given stockings filled with nuts, fruits, and other delicacies, which was a popular custom during that time that some still carry on today, especially with putting an orange in the stocking. This long-standing practice, especially in the South, stemmed from the scarcity and lavish cost of fruits. Oranges were also thought to bring joy, good luck, and ward off evil, according to ancient Chinese culture. Now, during this time as well, most decorations and dining table centerpieces were edible and usually included a spread of everything from sweet pastries to exotic fruits. So first, I'm going to share the fruitcake recipe used at the White House. This recipe belongs to Heinz Bender, who was the White House pastry chef, from 1968 to 1979. He began making these fruitcakes during World War II, and he would go on to make 180 of them one year during the Nixon administration. His recipe makes 6 2-pound cakes, so the ingredient amounts in the original recipe are to make that quantity, but you can always cut the recipe into a half or a third. So to make this, you're going to take 1 3/4 pounds of raisins, a pound and a fourth of golden raisins, a pound of currants, 2 pounds of assorted candied fruits, and I'll actually tell you how to make that in the next recipe. Then you're going to take half a pound of chopped pecans and half a pound of chopped almonds and 1/4 pound of candied pineapple. Mix that with 1 cup of sherry and 5 ounces of rum, and then you're going to set that aside and allow it to set overnight. Next, you're going to beat together 1 pound plus 4 tablespoons of softened butter, half a cup of sugar, 3/4 cups of brown sugar, 3/4 cups of flour, 1/4 cup of honey, 3/4 teaspoons of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon each of lemon, almond, and vanilla extracts, and also nutmeg and cinnamon. Once that's combined, add in 10 eggs and blend together. Then add in 2 more cups of flour and 1 3/4 cup of cake flour and a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Once that's all mixed together, combine the batter with your fruit. Using a greased spread pan or any really of your choice of baking pans, and line the bottom with baking paper or aluminum foil. Add in the batter and then bake that on 350 degrees for an hour until your toothpick comes out clean. Finally, just cool the cakes and store in tightly covered containers, and there you will have a traditional style fruitcake. The Washingtons were another first family known for their Christmas time celebrations, which would include drinking, dancing, card playing, and Martha Washington's Great White Cake, which we'll be making today, and is a version of fruitcake with sweet icing. She traditionally served this cake during the festivities celebrated during the 12th night. The recipe, which was copied down by Martha's granddaughter, really reflects a lot of the recipes at that time, a lot of vague ingredients and measurements. So it was adapted for the book Dining with the Washingtons, and that's the recipe that we'll be following today. Now, several parts of this recipe have to be made ahead of time, so I've pre-made several of the ingredients. So if you're going to make this, you're going to want to plan to give yourself about 3 days at least in advance to make the candied orange and lemon peel, and then also to let the soaked candied fruits soak in the wine and brandy. So first, to make candied orange peel, just cut the ends off of the orange and peel. You're gonna boil the peel for about 10 minutes until they're soft, and then drain. Then add equal parts sugar and water. So 1 cup of water and 1 cup of sugar for 2 oranges. Bring that to a boil, then add the drained orange peel. Bring to a simmer and cook for 20 to 25 minutes. Then put them on a drying rack and let them set up. I let mine set up overnight. Then you're just going to roll them in sugar. Once your candied fruit is ready, chop it up, put it in a bowl, and add in 1 1/2 cups of currants, 1 1/2 cups of wine, and cover and let that set overnight. In a separate bowl, add in 1/4 cup of brandy and 1/4 cup of the wine, and then set that aside as well. So once you have that done, we're ready to actually put the cake together and bake it. So you're first going to want to preheat your oven to 325 degrees and grease and flour your cake pan. Then you're going to take your set aside liquid here and a strainer and strain out your candied fruits that have been soaking overnight in the wine, and just squeeze that and make sure to get out as much of the liquid as possible. And again, we're going to be using it as well. So once you've done that, then you are going to toss your candied fruits in a little bit of flour along with a 1/2 cup of chopped almonds. So let me get my bowl back out. Lightly toss that with your flour and your almonds. And then just mix that up. Next, what you're going to want to do after we get this done and set it aside, you're going to sift the remaining 2 3/4 cup of flour, and you are going to add to that a teaspoon of nutmeg. So nutmeg is, of course, a really important ingredient in fruitcakes. So I've already done that part, so it's all mixed up and ready to go. Then in your mixer, you are going to cream together 3/4 cups of butter until it's light, and then add in 1/2 cup of sugar, which again, already have pre-done that, so we're going to put that back in the mixer. And then you're going to mix this up till it's really fluffy, and then you're going to add in your egg whites. So you're going to need 3 egg whites as well. So mix those up, so don't get rid of them. And then you're going to add the flour and nutmeg mixture until it's very smooth, but you're going to just add it in very slowly, about 1/2 cup at a time. There we go. And interesting part of the recipe as well, they call for mace as a seasoning. Not that kind of mace, but a good substitute for that is just a little extra nutmeg. So if you don't have that or can't find it at your store, nutmeg is a perfect substitution. But that was very popular in old-time recipes. All right. All right, so once you get that all mixed up, then you are going to slowly add in the wine and brandy mixture as well into your batter. Make sure and get that really smooth. And then mix up your egg whites, just like this. And then you're going to also add these into the batter as well. So once you have that, your last step is going to just be folding in your fruit and nut mixture, and then putting that into your greased baking pan and baking again on 325 for about an hour and a half, or again as any cakes, until your toothpick comes out clean. Excuse me. So our last step, we're just going to fold in our fruit and nut mixture. Also, if you're wondering about the candied fruits and the peels, you do the same thing for the lemon that you do with the orange, and it's actually extremely easy to make, but it's also very sticky, as you can imagine, being sugar. So we're just going to mix this up, and we're going to put it in our baking pan, and we'll check back on it here in a little bit. All right, y'all, so at this point, after you've baked your cake and let it cool, you can either serve the cake plain or make the icing, which Martha Washington added to hers. To make the icing, you're going to beat 3 egg whites and 1.5 cups of sugar. Once that has formed a little white peaks, you are going to add in 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Now, her recipe actually called for rose water or orange flower water, but I couldn't find any of those, so vanilla is a perfect substitute. So finally, ice the cake, and then you're going to cool it because the icing is actually going to dry and become kind of crackly. So here you have Martha Washington's Great White Cake. So even if fruitcake is not for you, as it was for Martha Washington, you can celebrate National Fruitcake Toss Day on January 7th. There's actually a town in Colorado that take this very seriously and have a competition each year to see who can throw the fruitcake the farthest and with the most accuracy. So if you make either of these fruitcakes and decide that it's not for you, you could have a little competition with your own family and toss them. So anyway, as always, follow the National First Ladies Library on YouTube and social media. And you can also follow me for more on cooking with the First Ladies on Instagram. You can also head over there and I will post some behind the scenes of making the orange and lemon peels for the fruit cakes. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.